Welcome to the Pint Glass Football Podcast.
Pint Glass Football. I'm your host, Brad Fowler. What's up, PGF Nation? It's time to react to the NFL Week 4, College Football Week 5. Some great games, big stories. Eagles get stomped again. Are the Vikings for real? Jayden Daniels is running away with the Rookie of the Year so far, but it's the other team's quarterback that I want to talk about. College football had some unbelievable finishes that we've got to discuss today. But joining me, of course, my co-host, Alex Higdon. Alex, what is going on?
Hey, Brad, like you said, college was on fire this weekend. I love the NFL, but I could not stop talking about what we saw on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, we normally lead off with the NFL, as you guys know, PGF Nation. But look, this last Saturday, well, like you said, Friday and Saturday, unbelievable. We're going to lead off with college football this week because, quite frankly, I think it was better than the Week 4 NFL slate that we had. But look, we've got a lot to get to. Let's jump right into it, Alex. And let's get to the game that we knew was going to be the game of the weekend. We talked about it last week, previewed this game, made our betting picks for this game, which we hit, by the way. Alabama, Georgia, it lived up to the hype, Alex. Even though, look, I'm not going to lie, I switched to a different game at one point, Alex. I thought this game was over. It was 30-7. Crazy comeback from Georgia. It looks like they're going to make this unbelievable comeback, and then Alabama strikes right back. A side note, how good is freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams? I mean, my goodness, this guy is so fast. Unbelievable play. Unbelievable game. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, when you talk about the game, like you said, I was out in the streets, as the youth say, roaming around, went to a bar. It was 30-7 when I walked in. I started seeing people file in, and I look around. I'm like, what's going on? And as I get ready to leave, I see that Georgia now has the lead, and I don't leave the spot until I see what the next few plays are. And lo and behold, I was at least, at minimum, able to witness this 17-year-old phenom, Ryan Williams, catch the ball, catch that pass. So I think the thing that we have to talk about is everything that happened in the play. Jalen Milroe getting the accuracy, because that's a big knock on him. Let's identify that first. Caleb DeBar, working with him, fixing his mechanics. This kid was probably a 6th-round pick who's now probably at least boosted himself up to a 4th-round pick as of right now. Ryan Williams, it's the catch. And then it's what happens, because there are two defenders there that he basically turned into Barry Sanders by making them run into each other, only to go ahead and walk into the end zone for the game-winning play. It's going to be a play that we're going to see in highlights, especially in this digital social media world. It's a play that we're going to see. And shout out to you, Ryan Williams. I'm pretty sure today your stats got boosted up in NCAA 25.
Man, absolutely. Yeah, this guy's unbelievable. This game was so much fun. Like I said, I'm actually mad at myself for turning it off. But I mean, look, it's Saturday. There's all these games going on. You know how it is, Alex. There's all these games you want to watch. When they got up big, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to flip around here. I've got multiple screens going. I kind of kept an eye on my phone. I'm looking. I'm like, wait a second. This is a game. I flip back over. I can't believe what I saw. Unbelievable finish, man. And yeah, that kid is unbelievable. 17-year-old freshman lighting it up at Alabama right now. Look, Jeremiah Smith, another freshman that we talked about on the podcast and, of course, on YouTube at Ohio State, another unbelievable. These freshman wide receivers, I don't remember two guys like this coming in and having this kind of impact. There probably has been, but off the top of my head, it's just unbelievable. What a monster win, though, for Kalen DeBoer and Alabama, because this is a guy that came in, obviously replaces the legend of legends, Nick Saban, the GOAT. You want to talk about big shoes to fill. This guy has come in. Now, look, it's one game. There's a lot of season left. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here, but this was such a monster win for him and this program. Alabama football is not going anywhere. And this game absolutely proved that they're absolutely a contender. Both these teams are going to be playoff bound. Both could win the whole thing. And I don't think that's a stretch at all.
Yeah, it's not a stretch at all. However, it's a stretch for me. I'm not betting on Georgia. I said it from the beginning of the year. I didn't think they were the team. I know they have, Carson Beck had even an odd game for the game manager that I project him to be. He almost had about 500 yards passing, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions. I don't think Georgia is ready. They'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to make any noise in the playoffs. That running game isn't what that running game was. I thought would be once they got Trevor Etienne. So I'm not high on Georgia going far in the playoffs. Alabama, I think, is an unknown with the running and now the passing development of Jalen Monroe is an unknown, and I think it's evolving on a week-to-week basis, so teams are not going to know which Jalen Monroe they're going to see. And if he decides to get steady, they're going to have some problems, and they're going to be some problems for everyone in the playoffs, namely, obviously, Texas.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up Texas because I'm on the opposite side here, it sounds like, Alex, because I'm taking Texas to win the SEC. Yeah, I said it. I think they win the SEC in year one. There is an embarrassment of riches at the quarterback spot for this team right now. Quinn Ewers, who we know is probably going to be a top 10 pick in the draft, has been hurt, and they haven't missed a beat. Now, granted, they haven't played the big-time SEC programs yet. I get that. But Arch Manning is for real. Man, this kid is really, really good. This Texas team is absolutely loaded, and I think they absolutely could beat anyone regardless of who's under center. Now, I want to stick with the SEC for a second here before we shift gears to the NFL because there were some other college football games that were really good, Alex. Hats off to Kentucky. They get the big road upset over number 6 Ole Miss. Huge win for that program. Look, that Kentucky defense is scary good because we know what Ole Miss is about. We know that they can move the football, and this Kentucky defense absolutely showed up. Now, the offense for Kentucky, I think, is a little bit of a work in progress, but that defense flies around, man, and they make plays.
I'm sorry, I only have one thing to say about this game. Good job, Kentucky. Lane Kiffin, there's a blank check under your door from Florida.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, because Billy Napier's seat is getting hot, and that's not the craziest take I've heard, Alex, because we know what type of program Florida is when they've got the right coach in place. That would be a heck of a fit. I love it. Now, Alex, let's jump to that Friday night game. You talked about it kind of briefly there in the intro. Controversial Friday night ending to number 7 Miami's victory over Virginia Tech. They overturned a touchdown that, quite frankly, I think was awful. I think it was a terrible overturned call. 3 seconds remaining. Virginia Tech quarterback Kyron Drones launches a pass into the back corner of the end zone. The ball was up for grabs. I mean, it's a Hail Mary situation. There's a group of players. Now, it looked like to me the Virginia Tech wide receiver, DeQuan Felton, came up with the football. And that's what they ruled on the field. They ruled this a touchdown. They went to replay, of course, and the replay, I thought, and I think most of us saw it, was not very clear. I don't think it was clear enough to overturn the call on the field, but they did. They said he didn't catch it. Look, I didn't like this overturning that call. Look, I think if you're going to overturn a call on the field, it's got to be obvious. I don't think it was anything but obvious, and I think this was a bad look for the referees in this one, and I think Virginia Tech really got robbed of a big upset win.
Well, a few things here. I'll get to the end of the play in a moment. During the game, watching the game, Cam Ward, who is basically the number 1 quarterback as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what the scouts have so far, but Cam Ward is my current number 1 quarterback coming out. A lot of the grit that I saw and a lot of pieces that I saw in him throughout the offseason, college offseason, coming into the season, showed true today. Fought through his mistakes. That was one interception, I think was a batted ball or something like that. The second interception was just terrible. He just looked to stare the receiver down in a great play by Virginia Tech defender to intercept it. But fighting through that and still walking this team down, because they ended up scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter to end up winning the game, and that's on the back of his arms, just still lets me feel comfortable at leaving him as my number one quarterback. Virginia Tech, well fought. This reminded me of the Frank Beamer teams, just defense and grit and grinding out games, even though this wasn't as defensive as the old regime, as the old Frank Beamer regime, excuse me. But there was a lot of grit and grime in terms of how they played this game, never giving up, fight till the end, giving us a great game to a great ending. Now, as far as the ending is concerned, only because it was such a great game, I wasn't mad at either way that it went. I didn't feel good either way. I didn't have any true conviction, so I can't say I had any true feelings that it was, had it stayed the same, had they upheld the ruling on the field, or had they overturned it, which they ended up doing. It didn't make me feel any different about that game and what I saw. I just feel like the ending of that game was apropos to how that game went.
Look, I think it's time for our weekly Travis Hunter update here. Look, we've talked about this guy every week, and I think for good reason. The Colorado Buffaloes, they win again. Travis Hunter continues to make his push for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he is an absolute real contender at this point. Hunter caught 9 passes for 89 yards and a touchdown, and added an interception on defense against UCF. Look, do the right thing, Heisman Committee. I expect we see him in Nissan ads next year.
Right. So as of right now, it's Jalen Monroe number 1, Travis Hunter is number 2, Ashton Genty number 3, and Dylan Gabriel is number 4 as it stands right now for the Heisman. And I think he's going to be rising, but I think if Jalen Monroe continues the way that we talked about earlier, Travis Hunter is going to have a hard time leapfrogging Jalen Monroe, even though what he's doing right now is incredible.
I think it's just unbelievable. And, don't get me wrong, Milroe's great. He's playing great. Their team's playing great. I get all that. And I know this award has kind of become quarterback and to a lesser degree running back centric, but look, this is why I'm saying, committee, they've got to do the right thing. This is the best player in college football, and that's really what this award should be about. And the fact that this guy plays both sides of the ball at an elite level, it's nothing we've ever seen before. Look, we saw Charles Woodson win the Heisman doing something similar to this, but Travis Hunter's doing it at a whole new level. And I think that has to be rewarded here. And if he keeps this up, I think he has to be in serious consideration. Now, a couple other games I want to get to briefly here, Alex, before we jump to the NFL. Number 9 Penn State really got Illinois' best shot. And look, we told you guys, PGF Nation, we told you, take the points, and this game hit. Because Illinois' defense is for real, and they Penn State, that is, scored a late touchdown to make this look better than it was. This was a 14-7 ball game late in the fourth quarter. Now, a defensive battle, maybe not the most entertaining game for people who love scoring. I get that. But this was a battle, and Illinois' defense has shown me a couple weeks in a row now that they are absolutely for real. Look, they might not win the Big Ten, but they're going to give people problems in this conference.
Yeah, Brad, I took a little shot. I didn't take as much time as I normally do because I was preparing for NFL. But you mentioned him the previous week. I believe his name is Altmaier, the quarterback from Illinois. But I did take some time to look at him, check out what was going on in terms of his skill set and what he can do. The kid does look good. Now, I'm not saying he's a world beater or anything, and that's just only one game I looked at, but he did look good. He looks like he's going to be something. You know what? He should stay or transfer. You know how this new transfer portal works. So I can see him transferring out of Illinois and perhaps maybe going to someplace, I don't know, maybe even Notre Dame, because they're going to get rid of that kid. Jesus, they got to get rid of that kid. But he will do a lot better and improve his draft stock if he transfers. So I'm not sure. I think Illinois is good, but I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this kid at that school.
Now, you mentioned Notre Dame. I wanted to talk about them briefly here because they had a big top 25 matchup, number 16 Notre Dame versus number 15 Louisville. Look, we said take Louisville plus 6.5, just barely missed. Notre Dame ends up winning by 7. They forced 3 turnovers in this game. And we talked about this going into this game, Alex. This Notre Dame defense is absolutely for real. Here's the thing, though. This schedule for them is light. Even with that Northern Illinois loss earlier in the year, I think this team is absolutely going to make the college football playoff. I know that's a bad loss, but there's a really good chance that they run the table. Maybe they lose one more game the rest of the way, but a 2-loss Notre Dame team in a 12-team playoff, I think they absolutely get in.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of people, I don't, Northern Illinois actually was ranked for like a week during that. But yeah, I think they got a lot to do. You know what, Brad? Before we move on, I don't necessarily want to talk about a game. I just want to give another shout out to Genty. I mean, 26 carries, 259 yards, and 4 touchdowns. We need to really take a step back and maybe do a YouTube on this kid and what his prospect is going into the NFL.
Well, I'll tell you right now, he's the number 1 running back on my board, and I don't think it's even close. This guy is unbelievable, and obviously being out here in the Northwest, I got to watch him a couple weeks ago up close versus Oregon, and this kid was unreal. And we're talking about a big-time top 10 program, NFL players on that defense, and he was unstoppable. I'm impressed by this kid's vision, his balance, his speed. He hits the hole, but then on top of that, he also has breakaway speed. I think he's the total package at the running back position. I think he's one of the best prospects in this draft. Now, speaking of the NFL, Alex, let's shift gears here. Big statement win by the Ravens, dominating the then undefeated Buffalo Bills. Now, look, this was really the first time so far this year that the Ravens actually looked like a Super Bowl contender. Like coming into the year, they were off of an AFC Championship game appearance. I think most people thought that they were in that Super Bowl mix, but they hadn't looked like it. This was the first game that I said, okay, you know what? This team looks like they could be back again. This is what they expected when they brought over Derrick Henry. Unbelievable game from him. Almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Ravens secondary really had been getting torched the first 3 weeks of the season. They were lights out on Sunday night. Look, I'm not going to bury the Bills here just yet. I mean, look, it's a loss. They didn't look very good. I get that. Ravens at home, they couldn't afford to start the year 1-3. This was a desperate football team versus a 3-0 Bills team. This wasn't that surprising. I'm actually mad at myself for taking the Bills here because after I looked back, I thought, okay, this was an obvious spot to take the Ravens, but I think the Bills are going to be just fine. Don't get me wrong, but the Ravens really looked like the team we expected for the first time all year.
Yeah, I mean, I had no doubt about the Ravens. I thought this would be a slaughter. The Buffalo Bills are a soft team right now. There is no physicality. I mean, Von Miller has it, but he is, an older, 34, 35, and I think he's suspended now, if I'm not mistaken. Ed Oliver is not a tough guy up front, not to deal with anybody on that Baltimore Ravens offensive line. Greg Rousseau, good player, but he can't anchor it all by himself. The linebacking core, Matt Milano's coming back from injury. I believe Terrell Bernard is hurt right now, and we already know what the secondary looks like, losing all of their players and their safety. So this team was not ready. Buffalo had really not played anybody to begin with, which is why I was so, the Cardinals, who should have won that game, they didn't beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals beat themselves. The Dolphins, we know what happened during that game, but they were a soft defense, and the Jaguars are just the epitome of dysfunction. Sorry, I forgot I'm a Raiders fan. The Jaguars are the second most dysfunctional team in the NFL. So this was all gearing up for the outburst that we saw from the Ravens onto the Bills. Though we saw Josh Allen playing well earlier, but now you're playing some of the big guys, and this is one of the reasons I did not have the Bills making the playoffs this year.
No, wait. I thought that was last year's narrative. It's carrying over this year, Alex?
Well, it's not that it's carrying over. I did pick them not to make the playoffs, but I wasn't shouting it from the mountaintops.
This year, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah. This year, they're not making plays, but I didn't pick them just based on our picks. I'm just not shouting it out from the mountaintops because I said I can't do it again. 3 years in a row is crazy.
Well, I hate to break it to you. You just did. You just shouted it, Alex, from the mountaintops because everybody knows it now. And look, I get it, and I'm definitely not on the same page there. I think Buffalo is going to be fine. I think this team is still playing some pretty good football. I think this was just a perfect scenario where the Ravens came in hungry, determined they had to get this win. I think both teams are going to be fine for that matter. Now, look, I want to shift to the New Orleans Saints here because that 2-0 start starting to look like a little bit of a mirage here. They were sloppy on Sunday, a muffed punt, a tip ball pick six, bad play calling throughout this game, poor execution. This just isn't a well-coached football team. Look, I've seen enough of Dennis Allen. I think we all have. I said it when he became the head coach. This isn't going to work. And they've had moments, but once again, they go back to who I thought they were.
Yeah, and I think, this is week 4. And I've been seeing it over the past 2 seasons. This is all Sean McVay's fault anyway. But anyway, the team's not playing their guys in the preseason. I think a lot of the slow starts, which kills us in fantasy too, by the way, guys. But I think a lot what we're seeing is simply just the rust coming off and all of that. And I think Derek Carr, and shout out to Clint Kubiak, it's not like he still didn't do a great job those first 2 to 3 games in terms, even though they lost the last one too, but they did look good. And I think this is just now teams that are the teams that we think they are or who we thought they would be are now kind of in game shape. They're gearing up now. They're a lot more focused. They're in true full pad hitting game shape mode. So now weeks 5 through 9 will be a lot interesting, and we'll see what the Saints are as they go through their schedule over the next 4 weeks, where they have to face the Chiefs, the Bucs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. All physical defensive teams, because even though how I feel about the Broncos, that Broncos defense has turned up a little bit and they're physical. And we know the Chargers are physical on both sides of the ball. So these next 4 weeks, we'll know about what we saw in the first week of the season for the Saints versus the next 4 weeks. And I think we'll see the real Saints stand up. And I don't think they will be around to talk a lot about being in contention for that division.
Now, I want to stick with the NFC South for a second because the Tampa Bay Bucs, I think, might just be for real, and it seems like nobody's really talking about these guys. I think they're without a doubt the best team in that division. They smashed the Philadelphia Eagles again. They've really had this team's number. And look, when is the last time Jalen Hurts actually looked like a $255 million quarterback? Because this is a guy who had 20 turnovers last year. He already had 6 this season, including another red zone turnover versus the Bucs. Look, this is starting to become a real issue, and we didn't love Philly coming into this year. I didn't love this team at the end of last year. It seemed like it was coming unraveled, and I have not been impressed with this team, and I'm especially not impressed with this quarterback.
Well, absolutely. We one of our friends that we shared a space with literally had Jalen Hurts for an interception every single game this season. Well, I think we can maybe, extend that to just a turnover every single game this season. He's continuing on. I mean, I know there's a narrative around, what he is or what he isn't with AJ Brown. It is showing itself. I know there were a lot of skill set injuries, specifically at the wide receiver position, in both Devonta Smith and AJ Brown being out. However, when you decide to pay someone the big bucks, there needs to be a specialness that comes with that, where you can go do things, even if it's just for one game. When everything is falling apart, you can go do something special. And he has yet to be able to do that for the most part. On the other side of that, shout out to Baker Mayfield, that you can still retrieve your career or your quote unquote first round stats. Actually, which is funny, me and Brad were having a conversation about first round quarterbacks and who's a bust, what is a bust, and how long it takes. But Baker Mayfield has truly rebuilt his career. He's found a home in Tampa Bay. And if you've been listening to this podcast, I've talked about it, especially for fantasy owners. Bucky Irving is going to start to take more and more snaps away from Rachaad White. Keep an eye on him, and if he's on your wire, pick him up and stash him now.
Yeah, fantasy alert right there, guys. And Bucky Irving, once again, to take a victory lap myself, I had him as a top 5 running back in this NFL draft class. He was a guy that I thought was really being undervalued and could be a little bit of a sleeper this year, and he's definitely proven it right now. What the hell happened to this Browns defense, Alex, that went from elite last season to absolutely mediocre? Now, the offense we already know is bad. Deshaun Watson is garbage. Okay, to be fair, the offensive line is banged up. They gave up a lot of pressure, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse here because this guy's been bad even when he has time to throw. This team overall is garbage. This was a team that a lot of us felt like was a quarterback away, and I know they felt this way, otherwise they wouldn't have gotten Deshaun Watson. They felt like they were a quarterback away from being a real contender just a couple years ago, and right now they couldn't be further from that.
Yeah, and this is funny that we go from talking about Tampa Bay's success to the Browns. I don't know what you want to call it, decline, I guess. They moved on from Baker Mayfield and they brought in Deshaun Watson, thinking that they were like most teams, Denver included. You're including that as well. You were a quarterback away, and it seems not to be working. Kevin Stefanski, I believe, is a good coach. We saw what he did last year. He was the coach of the year, taking 5 quarterbacks and still getting to the playoffs after Deshaun Watson's exit. Deshaun Watson's not seeing the whole field. That's number one. Number two, shout out to the Raiders. They did generate a lot of pressure, and it's definitely not an excuse, especially if one Max Crosby and one Devontae Adams, who, as of today, has asked for a trade, thank God. When they're not on the field, that you should be getting beat by this Raiders team in a game where those guys don't play. But I don't think Deshaun Watson is seeing the whole field. I don't think he's playing with confidence. I don't think he's comfortable there, which is something we knew that he just this is the problem. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. When you go for the money and people say, "Oh, you got to take this, you got to take that." No, he's not happy. He should be in Atlanta. And Atlanta's probably looking at this saying, "Thank God you didn't come here." I think Deshaun Watson is unhappy. No different than Devontae Adams being unhappy, even though he wanted to be on the closer to the West Coast to his family. If you're unhappy, it's going to affect your play, and I believe that's what you're seeing with Deshaun Watson, because this team has done everything they need to do. They went out and got Jerry Jeudy. They got Amari Cooper for him. They retained in Njoku for him. The offensive line, they kept everybody together. They beefed up the running backs, with Donta Foreman. I'm not sure how much more they could have done in terms of skill set, actually in terms of getting him more help than they have already done over the past 2 seasons. Now they are looking for a return, an ROI, and he is a stock that needs to be sold. And as I say that is a great segue into
Kyler Murray. Look, Alex, hold my beer because this is going to get ugly. Arizona, look, this team has issues on both sides of the ball. The defense is bad. The offense scores on the opening drive. Then they give up 27 unanswered points. Look, that's not on Kyler Murray. That's the team defense, obviously. But the Cardinals punted on 3 straight possessions after scoring, and then 2 of which were 3 and outs. Couldn't get anything going. They were followed by a turnover on downs and then a punt on Arizona's first drive of the third quarter. Kyler in the offense was booed off the field by the home fans at that point. And look, Kyler after the game said, quote, "Something's got to change. We weren't good enough today. They exploited our weaknesses. We didn't play complementary football. We've got to get our best players the ball." Murray went on to say, "When we're good, you feel that." Notice in all those quotes, there was no I. It was all we, and we. Look, you are the quarterback. You have to get them the ball, Kyler. Kyler, you threw for 142 yards. Yes, your defense is struggling, but when that happens, you have to step up and make plays to keep your team in this game. I am so tired of this guy getting a pass, Alex. He's a former number 1 overall pick. He's a $230 million quarterback. That comes with real expectations. At least it should. He's 29, 39, and 1 as a starter. His stats really aren't that impressive. Why does he keep getting a pass? I don't understand it. Now he's on his second coach, still not having success. And by the way, his old coach is lighting it up with a rookie quarterback. This is a guy who lacks leadership. He lacks work ethic. We know that because of the reports and how that contract was written. Kyler is why I never bought into the Cardinals. Is he talented? Yes. But when has that ever been enough in this league?
Never, Jamarcus Russell. But so what you're saying is absolutely correct. The Cardinals still, I said what I said. They're still my sleeper team this year. One of the things that I noticed in terms of watching this, I'll say this about the team in general. You're right. On defense, they just don't. They have Buda Baker and a bunch of guys. Sorry, there's nobody there. I don't even know if Darius Robinson is playing, who was a sleeper pick that I heard all throughout the draft. I don't know if he's playing. I don't know where he is. I don't even know if he's even hit the field yet. Max Melton actually looks like a guy out there. So I'll say that in terms of their defense. But what I will say is the one thing I'll say about this team is they play hard. Now, it didn't look like that on Sunday, but you're going to get games like that where the team is trying to figure out who they are and get an identity. However, this team has an identity, and the identity is running the ball. 32 carries, 181 yards, 5.7 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown. They truly need to switch to just focusing on running the ball and being a ball control offense. That's number one. Since you have to retain Kyler Murray, that contract's just beginning, so you can't really do anything with it at the moment. Now, the problem they're going to have, even if they do that, is I don't know how much better Kyler Murray can be other than a simple game manager. If he's 6'1", if he's 6 feet, there's other plays that he can make. Watching him and taking an opportunity to watch the all 22, he simply cannot see the field. If he's 6 feet, I believe 1,000% we're having a completely different conversation because he can see the whole field. He leaves the pocket too quickly, not because of a rush. He just can't see what's going on. He thinks he sees something, but he just can't see it. Now, I don't know how you create passing lanes and all that. I'm not that skilled in terms of working with an offensive line and a sub 6 foot quarterback. But their problem is going to be that they need to figure out how to maximize this guy while they still have him because they can't move that contract. They're simply going to have to do a lot of college-style plays where they use James Conner, Trey Benson, and Kyler Murray to a lot of option, a lot of short passes, getting him on some bootlegs where he can see down the field. I know they drafted Marvin Harrison, who is a weapon, but I don't think we're truly going to see the weapon that Marvin Harrison. I think we're just going to see flashes all season, and guys like Malik Davis and perhaps Rome Odunze are going to have better seasons than him because Kyler Murray can't get him the ball the way that he needs it simply because of his height. Real short on the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels. Thank you, whoever traded me Jayden Daniels at our fantasy because I needed a quarterback. But Jayden Daniels still doing a lot of things. I mean, this guy, I said what I said, and I stand on what I said. I said either he's going to be great or it's not going to work at all. I said he is a boom or bust player, and right now he's booming. I mean, he looks absolutely fantastic. Small sample size, but he looks above and beyond, I even think, what people thought he was showing his first year.
Yeah, the first couple of weeks, it was a lot of dink and dunk stuff. It was a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of easy throws, a lot of just screen passes, and it kind of inflated the numbers. I actually wasn't that impressed the first couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, though, we've seen more shots downfield. We've seen more big-time NFL-level throws, and we've seen better production from him all around. And, yeah, the running ability, we knew that was there. We saw the tape at LSU. We saw what he did to Arizona State. We knew he was going to come in and be able to run the ball and make plays with his legs. It was the passing that I wasn't sure would translate at the next level. It's been pretty good. Now, I think that Cliff Kingsbury is doing a really good job of setting him up for success, designing an offense that works for him. We're going to kind of find out, though, long term if this is going to work or not. But right now, absolutely, he's an exciting player that's making a lot of plays for that team. Did you know that Pint Glass Football is more than just this podcast? We have an exclusive newsletter. Sign up for free at pintglassfootball.com to receive articles and insights delivered straight to your inbox. But wait, there's more. We're excited to announce our brand new YouTube channel. Not only can you listen to our podcast on YouTube, but you'll also find exclusive video content waiting for you. So hit the pause button right now and go subscribe to our newsletter, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube to stay connected with the latest football news and our exclusive content. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. We personally love the pick'em game. Just pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. Pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Download the Underdog Fantasy app and sign up today with promo code PGF. That's promo code PGF to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The official ticketing app of Pint Glass Football is now SeatGeek. I can't recommend them enough, guys. I've been using SeatGeek for years. You want to go to a game this season? SeatGeek is here to take the confusion out of buying tickets, making sure you get the best seats at the best prices. With SeatGeek, you'll never have to worry about overpaying for tickets again. How? They put a 0 to 10 score on each ticket, so you know you're getting a good deal. But here's the real game changer. You can get $20 off your first ticket purchase with the code PGFPOD. That's right, $20 off with code PGFPOD. This season, make every game day epic with SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app and remember to enter the code PGFPOD to grab your $20 discount. Real quick, I want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings again because we talked about them last week. And my question at this point is Minnesota for real, Alex? And when I say for real, I mean, are they a legit NFC contender? Because this was a game that I actually liked Green Bay in this game. Yeah, they made it interesting at the end, but they were getting destroyed in this game. The Vikings are easily the biggest surprise team that I can recall in a really long time. They're doing this with, quite frankly, and I'm going to be nice here, a very, very average at best roster. This is really impressive what this coaching staff is doing with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with my disagreement. I think this game was a game that Green Bay technically gave away. And I think it's more on the fact that Jordan Love was coming back from injury. He did, like we just talked about, not a lot of playing in the preseason. So he was trying a lot of things, those 3 interceptions in terms of what he did, and critical interceptions at times when they were driving to actually take the lead and or tie it. So I think this game was a lot closer than what you think, even though, they were down. But a fourth quarter comeback is a fourth quarter comeback. If we're going to give the same love to Georgia for doing it, we have to then also give it to the Green Bay Packers when they started to get hot. Now, directly to your question, Sam Darnold, a person that, hopefully I get to take a victory lap on at the end of the season. I said, I'm not sure what their record will be, but I think he will be playing very well. And he is playing very well in the Kevin O'Connell offense. And I think we said it in the beginning of the season that Sam Darnold's time up in San Francisco really was rehabilitating to him. And now he's been set off into the world out of the rehab facility. And he lives in the halfway house called the Minnesota Vikings. And he's performing and exceeding expectation. And the MVP of this team, his name is really Brian Flores. It's the defensive coordinator, because what Brian Flores has done, this defense when he got here was ranked 31st. In 1 year, he got it from 31st to 16th, and now he's again continuing on having this defense playing very well without a Daniel Hunter, with a bunch of young guys and B to C level free agents. He has this defense believing in his system. He's put him in the best position to win. So the answer to your question, yes, the Vikings are for real.
Yeah, it's just incredible what they've done. What Kevin O'Connell has done with Sam Darnold in this offense, what Brian Flores has done with this defense. Look, I said it last week. He is the best defense coordinator in football. He is doing this with smoke and mirrors. It's unbelievable the job he's done with this defensive unit. And look, to your point about Jordan Love, he's making a lot of good quarterbacks look bad right now. So it's not just Love. Join the list because he's made a lot of guys look really bad. He is dialing it up for this defense, absolutely. And your point about Sam Darnold going to the 49ers and being kind of like a rehab for him, it's starting to look like if you're a high draft pick, a high-level prospect that doesn't really pan out, just go and learn from McVay or Shanahan, and you're going to reboost your career into something great. That's really what we're seeing now. Is if Baker Mayfield goes with McVay, instantly revitalizes his career. Now we're seeing Sam Darnold go with Shanahan, revitalize career. It's unbelievable. Taking these guys that were off the clearance rack, and now all of a sudden they're playing really high-level football. Now, speaking of high-level football, we did not see any high-level football in this game between New York and Denver, but I want to talk about it here for a second, Alex, because that was a bad loss for the New York Jets. Look, the Rodgers experiment isn't working. Now, look, I admit, and I'll point the finger at myself here, I thought that this could be a really good team this year, but I'm starting to have some serious doubts. It was only the 5th time in Aaron Rodgers' career that his offense failed to generate a touchdown. I think it's clear he's past his prime, but now the question is he too far past his prime? The Jets failed really to be any consistent threat on offense. They made 0 adjustments in this game. The coaching staff is bad. I mean, let's just face it, they are. They have too much talent, Alex, to be this mediocre.
Another team that Denver didn't win this game. The Jets lost this game. And I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. This you're seeing is a product of no playing in the preseason and not enough reps together for a brand new team that was supposed to be going for a Super Bowl run. That's number one. Number two, and because of that, these receivers, Aaron Rodgers actually threw about maybe 4 to 5 great balls, back shoulder throws that neither one of these guys, Mike Williams or Garrett Wilson, knew how to catch. He's not the elite Aaron Rodgers of all, but that arm and that accuracy still works, almost Greg Maddux style. It's not going to come at you 95 miles per hour, but location. Even the end zone pass to Mike Williams that should have been called for a touchdown. Mike Williams didn't know which way to turn because he doesn't understand Aaron Rodgers, how Aaron Rodgers thinks, where the ball should be and where anticipation should be, a la enter Devontae Adams for that 2nd round pick. Thank you, Jets. The other part is this offensive line for the first time this season didn't look good. Aaron Rodgers was under duress the whole game. I already talked about how Denver's defense has been playing a lot better. But the one thing I will credit Aaron Rodgers for was something that I criticized him for when he was in Green Bay. It was simply always keying and trying to make big plays when it was like, hey, man, the name of the game is to get first downs. Keying on Devontae Adams, those were a lot of mistakes that he made where he cost himself some games, including the playoff games, because of that. But in this one, he understood throughout the game that these guys did not understand how to play with him. This is what you got Aaron Rodgers for, to put yourself in a position to win the game, which is what he did, and then the kicker muff the kick. This is a team that needs to be practicing Monday through Friday, get on the plane Saturday to get these reps up, because you're going to have a problem when Aaron Rodgers is throwing actually great passes and these receivers don't know what to do in order to make the big play.
If you enjoy the podcast, do us a favor and subscribe, rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Once again, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Pint Glass Football Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at PGF Podcast.
Zencastr is the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. It provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content all from one dashboard. Zencastr's post-production process takes the headache out of audio production. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. Coordinating all your guests to record in person is painful and tedious. Easily invite up to 11 participants per recording with one click. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code PGFP and you'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.